Now you tell me, Brandon. Oh my goodness. All right. Mitch, let me tell you what the problem is here. We're going to start all over again. There was nobody here anyway. So there you go. First of all, let me know that you can hear me now, because you should absolutely be able to hear me. Yeah, better, as in it actually works. So here, okay, here's the problem. Which one did I put? I patched this over here. Okay, so this is the A10 Mini Pro, and over here on the left-hand side, that option there. And when I press that to off, then no audio. Doesn't matter what else is going on. The way I have things patched, you're not going to get any audio unless I have that on. So ignore everything that happened in the beginning. I guess I'm going to have to go back and trim this in YouTube, which is ridiculous. And when I'm doing this solo, it's really weird because I'm looking at myself here unless I go ahead and do some other stuff. I said impromptu, Bill. You know, come on. What are you going to do? So this is the C47 channel. Clearly, we do not know how to press an on-off button to make the audio work or not work. But the purpose of this channel is to talk about corporate, in-house production, small to no crew. If you are interested in a feature film, doing a short film, long form narrative, short form narrative, long form documentary, this might not be the channel. But if you want to learn how to use camera equipment, lighting equipment, you're into video production, you're working with 1 to maybe 10 to 20 people on production, this may be a place you want to hang out. And there you go. So that's the deal. And today I say impromptu because I'm really going to make every effort here to start producing content on a regular basis. But the challenge here for me, we'll talk about this green screen later on, is that I'm working, and I'm working on a regular basis. And I am absolutely taking questions, Brandon. So go for it. And the purpose of the channel is to help people with production, to talk about production, but it is really hard unless you are monetizing at a high level to shoot and produce content on a regular basis on a platform like YouTube without well it's just hard. It's hard because you have to conceptualize, shoot, edit, and post that stuff. And if you're trying to do that even once a week, it's hard. So what I'd like to do is start this experiment of doing more and more live streams that are not 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes long, that are shorter, where we're talking about specific things, we're having conversations. I realize, and I said this earlier on today because I did a very impromptu live stream where I was testing some audio stuff, which we couldn't talk about. You didn't hear because I was muted. There was a lawnmower going right outside this window over here, and it was very loud. And what I wanted to find out was, is the Mix Pre 2 with noise assist really helping even in those situations? And it was remarkably good based on the feedback. So the other thing we found out was there were some dropouts and things happening. So I changed some settings in Ecamm Live. So hopefully that makes things a little bit better. So Brandon, questions, just put in at the C47 before your question. I'm looking over here at comments and reactions in Ecamm Live, so I'm happy to answer it. And that is one of the reasons I love using this app. It's because I can schedule something on YouTube, but then I can go into Ecamm Live and make it live and see all of the questions, and I don't have to have YouTube open, so it's all integrated into the app. Oh, Brandon says I scored an FS700 Odyssey combo. I'm using S1Hs traditionally, but I'm wondering your thoughts on the FS700 in 2022/2023. On paper, it's great, but I'm just not sure this thing is a beast, or a thing is a beast with lots of T's. Um, FS700 is a very interesting camera because it's existed for a long time. It was one of the first cameras that had a raw out capability. I don't think it's the first camera. But it was definitely one of the first affordable cameras, and it had built-in NDs, and it was a great camera. I think that the thing that probably is the Achilles heel/heels of the FS700 is primarily its dynamic range, how many stops from black to white that it can capture. And, it's only recently in the last few years that I feel like Sony's coming out with some color science that is tuned to nicer skin tones overall for lots of ethnic backgrounds, but it's great. And the Odyssey was a great product, really great product. It was a little more terminal in terms of how you used it. The UI was definitely engineery, but fantastic. Look, people are showing up. I love it. Brandon, it was my lawnmower being driven by my 14-year-old son, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to get feedback on what was going on. So there you go. So the point of this today is to start, I hope. Oh, shit. It is not. It's just an 8x8 X drop from Westcott. You're so funny. The point of this today is just to start a series of impromptu live streams because it's really impossible with the work that I do to be able to conceive, shoot, edit, and push out regular episodes to the channel. So what I want to do is shorter live streams, again, not 45 minutes to an hour and a half or so, but maybe 15 to 30 minutes. So we can get some questions in. We can talk about a particular piece of equipment, or maybe even just a particular feature for a piece of equipment, and then start to get into sort of long-term conversation. So we'll do Camera and Flask once a month with myself, Caleb Pike, and Ben Barden. I have a challenge that I need to post in the next few days that we talked about on the last episode, so everybody can get going on that. And you can afford Roscoe Green. You just need a gallon. It's great, great product. But depending on where you're setting up and what you're doing, obviously it's not the right product for everything. So we're going to just start these semi-regular live streams. I know the downside to them from a YouTube standpoint is that when you're here and we're doing this live, we have this interaction. Of course, when people are replaying, they can see the comments, they can see everything in terms of the chat, but it's a different experience. At the same time, I think it's the experience I can create right now and also be able to do what I do in my regular day-to-day work. All right, let's see. Mitch at the C47, from a business perspective, could you walk through how your process would be in cold contacting for corporate work, for internal or public-facing work? That's a pretty loaded question, and I would say that after doing this and being in this space for longer than I want to say, that it's very rare that I'm doing cold calling now. What I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out how to have long-term relationships with my clients. And as most of you know who are self-employed, it's a roller coaster ride. It goes up and down. And you get fortunate sometimes where you have long periods of time where you're doing things. And then you have those really scary times where, it's a drought and you hope that the drought lasts for the shortest period possible. And, the older you get, the more you're responsible for in life, the scarier it gets because you're not only responsible for you, your 20s, but probably for a partner. Maybe there's children involved. Then you start to have all of the things that are involved with that. Diapers are the cheap part. It gets a lot more expensive as you go on. So I'm looking for long-term relationships and also to continue to educate myself, continue to find things that interest me, but also that those in turn become valuable to the people I work for and with. I always have the viewpoint that I'm working with somebody as opposed to for them, but I think you also have to understand that client relationship and what that is. So for me, it's really about um, a long-term relationship and it builds over time. I definitely started off doing more traditional advertising, but it was also a different landscape and different outreach. And I would try networking and all of those things. But over time, you start to figure out, your lane or lanes. And I very clearly figured out that my lane, which I like, is creating educational content. Whether that's educational content in this space, video production, filmmaking, things like that, or other spaces, it's in creating educational content. And that's what I love to do. And I think that I'm relatively good at doing it. And I'm taking experiences from pre production, production, post production, and putting those together to see if I can give value to a client. And that's basically what I'm doing. So I think first and foremost, you have to identify what are the things that you want to work on. What are the things that interest you from a work standpoint. And then um that's the first thing you have to do, Mitch, is you have to identify what kind of work do I want to do. There's a lot of people who do or don't go to filmmaking school, but what they do is they figure out, I would love to do work in this space. So it might be commercials, it might be narrative, it might be combinations of different things, but they start to work on projects with other people, sometimes spec commercials or spec work that move in that direction. I almost feel like Ryan Connolly from Film Riot is doing that perpetually in a really good way, because I think that he's moving towards where he wants to be as far as making feature films. He's not rushing it. Plus, he's creating really great educational content and sharing a lot of information with his audience. So it's kind of a partial answer right now, Mitch, but I would say you have to do that. We can talk more in the future about that whole, client relationship and how you approach that. But I think a lot of that has to do with your individual personality and then how that is working with, not necessarily adapting, but working with other people and their personalities. And over time, I think you get more and more comfortable with that. Ashi might disagree, but I think that it's definitely something that over time just becomes, with experience, part of how you like to do business with people. And you try to find other people who are like minded and that you're, even if it's a client relationship, you're collaborating, you're figuring out ways to create better work and do that in a better way. Oh No Coffee says, I started doing short form live streams last week. It's a bit more dynamic. Please share. I just set up, let me just see if I can find it. I just set up I'm going to set up a couple of email addresses for stuff like this. I set up one for the challenges, so I'll share that when I post that in the next few days. And maybe I'll set up one just for this type of correspondence. So when we're doing a live stream and you share something and I want to know more about it, or I want you to send me a link so I can share it, then there's an email address to do that for. Brandon says, I really enjoy the way Scott Balcom does it. I have rewatched streams in the past, and he has some kind of on-screen display that shows comments. Works surprisingly well. That's true, Brandon. And I'm not exactly sure how Scott is doing it, but I should look into Ecamm Live and see if there's some options like that. I know OBS allows you to do some stuff where you can show the comments that people have. I mean, I can take any comment that people have and I can post them here. I need to figure out a little bit more in terms of resizing, changing them. I can move them around on the screen, as you can see. But I have seen that Caleb's done some stuff where he's done that very cleanly. Um, So I'll try to figure out some stuff to make that more dynamic. David says, would love to chat a bit more, but it's kind of late here in Europe. Got it. All right. So next one. Let's see. Seeing some feedback. Good. Oh, here we go. Brandon says, and then I see your follow-up comment. Not sure how versed you are with mixers, but I'm needing to upgrade our Scarlett 18i8 18i8. Is that right? I'm reading to something specifically for podcasting. 4 channels. Was looking at that Tascam Mixcast 4. I'm not really in the know. I do have a Rodecaster Pro 2 in the house, but I have not broken it out of the box yet and started to test it. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the right product for you, but I would definitely say start doing some research on YouTube. And yeah, Curtis Judd would be a good place to go for sure. So go to Curtis Judd's channel. I would say he's one of your best resources, especially for audio stuff. More questions come up. I will try to answer them. And let's go ahead and talk about some remote production stuff. So I did show this before. Oh, sorry. When Afshin asked the question, there's just this 8x8 X-Drop Pro here from Westcott. And I don't know if you know anything about that product. The original X-Drop was smaller sizes, but the frame behind it, and I'll have to show that in a different episode, or I could probably just walk around and just turn it around. Yeah, I guess I will. All right, audio is going to go a little quiet for a minute because I'm going to walk away from this mic. All right, so it's not quite the wide shot here. You can't see the whole thing, but it's basically kind of like a big light stand. And this is a beefier version of what the previous one was here. Well, here you can see it here. Let me give you a little more light. There you go. So kind of looks like a spider in a way, but this is the X-Drop. And Harrison, we might do a Wednesday. This is Impromptu. So this is the X-Drop behind me, and it's basically a frame that allows you to very quickly put up different fabrics. So this is an 8x8 green. They have gray. They have white. The old version for me, or the non-pro version, it wasn't beefy enough. This is much, much better. And I will say that the deployment of setting it up is very, very quick. It's about as fast as it gets to put up an 8x8 for a green screen. You definitely need to weight it down if you are going to use this thing outside. I would say for me personally, this is an inside product. So let me just go ahead and turn it around again, and then we'll get back to the stuff we're talking about. Yeah. All right, we're good. So there you go. I'm going to turn off this other light. You don't need to see that anymore. This is just my computer over here that you're seeing, the stand for the computer. So I can move that out of the way if I need to. And geez, what is going on with my, it just won't go away. Come on, kid. All right, there you go. Ono Coffee has some comments there about some other recommendations, and there you go. So this is pretty simple here. I'm just keying over here from one side. Again, I have another light, which I had just turned off, which I could use if I wanted this to be brighter, but I would really need to bring the levels down, the intensity of those two lights for green screen. But what I want to do is just talk about some of this stuff. I'm doing a lot of remote production. How do you set stuff up easily? Let me actually just show you. And I think that's the idea of this, of what I'm doing, is to kind of give you and have conversations about things, insight into different areas. So if I just go over here, I'm sure some of you have seen this before. This is my current basic setup for what I'm doing every day from a work standpoint. So you'll see over there in the middle is a teleprompter. And on top of that is the MixPre 6.2 with noise assist, which is what's helping make this so quiet, even if my fans on my computer kick in. There's another little camera over there, which I use to give you that wide shot. Obviously, there's a camera behind the teleprompter, which is the main shot right here. And then there's that camera, which is this shot, which is the tabletop. It's actually zoomed in right now, so it's really, really tight in terms of what's there. But that's basically that shot. And then there's the wide shot from that other camera I just talked to you about. So that's kind of my day-to-day setup here. I'm at a standing desk, and I don't usually have the green screen behind me. It's usually just the actual room itself. But I've just been doing some tests because I'm starting to go down this road of not just remote production, but virtual production, which to me are maybe things that will converge. I'm not interested in the metaverse and all of that stuff, but virtual production is interesting, which we'll talk about more in the future. And some of that can be done with green screen. It can be done with projectors. It can definitely be done and is on a large scale with LED walls. But I just wanted to check out this thing and see how decent it was. So what I'm going to do is share my screen for a second. And this is part of the user interface for Ecamm Live. And they have a green screen feature. This is something you can obviously do in Zoom as well. But feel free to have some comments or questions come up. And you'll see here that there's a green screen option. As soon as I click on that, then the green screen basically activates. And we'll see if this translates to what you see. Yeah, there you go. So you can see here, now I just have a keyed background. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen because I want to show you the parameters in here. And it's, again, this is just sort of stream of consciousness when I'm talking about this stuff. So this is not a planned episode. We're just having a conversation. So you see this green screen here. I can choose green or black. There's a fade level, which is as I slide this left or right, which is essentially the thing that's creating that mask. So we can start to key out the background, and we can go too far or too little, and you'll see what happens there. You can choose to make things transparent or not. You can blur the background, and then you can mask the edges. And over here is where you can choose your different backgrounds. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over here to just the regular view, and I'll just call out what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to that fade level option, and you'll see as I start to drag that to the left, we just have our background. To the right, I can absolutely go too far, and you sort of see where that feature is. This is nowhere near as precise as what you would get through something like After Effects or even a keyer in something like Final Cut Pro. But it has some rudimentary options. Transparent just keys everything out. And transparent's great because when you're using that fade level option, it allows you to in a more clear way, see what's happening when you're masking that. And then you'll see here mask edges, which will just kind of clean up the edges. I think my guess is it's going to work sometimes and not others. And then I'll turn transparent off, and we can go in here and we can just choose different backgrounds. Okay, these are the ones that are built into Ecamm Live. So you have some pretty, whatever standard stuff. This is just the stuff that lets you start out. Here's your little animated tunnel. And then I've just loaded up some different backgrounds here that are just some images. And I'm going to turn on blur background and share that with you so you can see it. And when you do that, you can take the slider and you can basically decide how much or how little you want to blur the image that's behind the people. So I do appreciate that in terms of an option. So back to the regular view, and you can see there's the non-blurred background. It's already kind of blurry to begin with, that image. There it's blurred, and here I am splitting the difference. Mask edges is on. Now mask edges is off. Hard for me to tell based on where the monitor is, how well it's doing that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and choose some different backgrounds so we can kind of get a sense for the keying in this particular app. So again, just some photographs that I loaded up that I had taken. So you can see, I'm going to keep the blur background at about halfway, and we can just see some different backgrounds and see how they're reading on camera. So there you go. Boom. I don't know. We'll pick something else. Here we go. And there you go. All right. So you get the basic idea. So we can take Ecamm Live or Zoom and we can do that. And quite honestly, you know, if I turn off the green screen here, it's not fantastically lit. You know, again, if I turn on this other light here, and to me, it's just going to be too much light in terms of how I want to light myself, and I turn on the green screen, it's probably helping it a little bit. But quite honestly, it's doing a pretty good job. Here, I'll turn that light off. It's doing a pretty good job with the key, even though there are imperfections. And I think that that really talks to how good a lot of this technology has become. I don't really think it's AI that we're talking about here for these keyers and these apps right now, but we are seeing AI definitely being integrated into a lot of photo and video apps when it does come to masking and instant masking. And in fact, if you've watched the one of the most recent videos from MKHB where he talks about some new features in the new iOS version, there's one feature where you not only now can take a picture and you can highlight the text, which you've been able to do for a while, you can actually do an instant mask. So if you have a scene and there's something in it, a cat or some other object, you can just hold and press and it will lift as a masked object, that object from your photograph or the scene that you're using from still images. So pretty cool stuff that's starting to happen here. I hate green screen in, you know, in some ways. In other ways, I love it, you know, but it's getting better. And I think that part of what I want to do is find that place where you're using green screen for certain things, which you absolutely should be, and then you're also using projected or LED walls for other things because of their flexibility and what they can do. All right, so let's talk more about virtual production. Go ahead and fire off some questions. Like I said, I don't want this to be an hour long. I wanted this to be short, but at least we're talking about a few different things. Again, that little X drop right there. Oh, that's wild. I've never done that before. So that's that's pretty cool. When you're in Ecamm and you key the background, when you go to a different angle, it'll actually take the green in the background and it'll show it to you, which, that's interesting. There you go. You can see here with this particular image, I'm going to have to tweak. It's having some issues there. I think part of it is also the noise levels with that camera in particular. When I switch back to the other camera, we're also not seeing the bottom of that frame, but there's more light on me from this camera. When I go to this wide, we're definitely seeing some issues. I'm going to turn off mask image and see if that helps at all. I doubt it will, but let's see. Not really. Oh, wow. So if mask edges. I thought that was going to mask me, but if I turn mask edges on in this scenario, then I'm seeing even more of that screen. I don't even know how to process what I'm seeing right now. I go to transparent, it turns black. This is wild. I don't even, again, know how to process what I'm looking at. I'm definitely going to have to think about this a little bit more. Oh, I see. It's mask edges of where the... I'm not sure this is working the way I would think. Because I turned mask edges on and off in this camera now, and you can see I had a hard line. It's keeping some information there and carrying it over. Peculiar way that is handling. I'm going to have to talk to Ecamm about some of this. This is my life, by the way. I see something, I start thinking about it. I start thinking about, did I just break it? And then I immediately want to start sharing information with people about that. All right, Bill, I'm really doing nothing to light this green screen. Let me share it with you. It's easier to just show you than to explain it. There we go. So there's a mix panel 150 over here from Nanlite. That is bouncing off of a white sound blanket. That is my key light right now. The only other things I'm using to light me is that little P360 from Felix. And those are my two light sources, unless I turn that one on again, which you saw earlier on. Let me find the remote. And that's really just to create some more ambience in the room. So you can see I can turn that one on as well. But it's really just this light that's lighting the green screen and not lighting it evenly for sure. And if I go back to that wide shot, my assumption, which is right, is now that I'm throwing more light on there, I'm not seeing those gremlins as much. Let me see if I can, it's very, let's see. Yeah, it's definitely, it's the lower light that's creating that problem. This was the one that I was seeing a lot of noise. You can see the noise on the floor if you look carefully. I don't think you actually have to look very carefully. But there's that. And then there's that mask edges option, which when I turn it on and off does something weird. It extends the background. I'm going to go to the wide. You can see that I'm now cut off. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and turn it back on. And it's analyzing, from what I can tell, what it's seeing in the frame. And it's changing that. So that's kind of what's happening with that stuff. Hopefully that answers your question, Bill. This is like, again, my life, just trying to figure things out. I just normally do it, not in the middle of a live stream. Where's the image I'm looking for that's not too objectionable? There we go. I like big dome lights. They're nice. But to be honest with you, if I'm taking, that relatively soft light and I'm bouncing it off of that wall, I'm getting pretty soft bounce light. I like the fact that I'm not a real YouTuber. I'm actually going to take that as a compliment more than anything else, because that is not the goal of this channel. I am not looking to do that. I want subscribers. I want to grow the channel. I want to share information, but I think it's just going to be from a different perspective. So it's going to talk to some people and not to others, and that's totally fine with me. All right, let's keep it to 40 minutes for this one. What other questions do you have regarding what I was talking about, or anything else having to do with remote production or any of that stuff? Because I have to get back to work soon, but I did want to do something today, and here we go. Thanks, Mitch. I'll see you later. Any other questions? Any other comments that people have? All right, I might be back tomorrow. I might not. We'll sort of see how the whole day plays out. And I do have on my to-do list posting the next challenge for Cameron Flask, which happens at the first Wednesday of every month. The next episode, which is in August, will not be the challenge month. It will be the first Wednesday in September that will happen. So I should get that up this week with all of the guidelines. But just in a nutshell, what we're going to be doing is you're going to go out and create an inspired frame based on a film, could be a television show. And we're going to look at the inspired frame first, and then we're going to look at what inspired it. So I think it'll be interesting. All right. Any other comments before I wrap this thing up? Thank you for coming to the live stream and also for keeping the chat lively and asking some good questions. Again, could be tomorrow, could be Thursday. I'll post it on the channel. I'll also post to LinkedIn. I'll post to Twitter. So anytime I'm going to do one of these things, those are the places. I quit Facebook a long time ago, and I don't really do Instagram anymore. It might be that meta thing. It might not, but it probably is. And thanks for watching. See everybody soon. Take care.